is global launch day for Lord of the Rings Heroes of Middle-earth, a brand new hero collector game from Capital Games. And in this video, I'm gonna help you get started off correctly so you don't end up making the same mistakes that I did. We're discussing the best characters to start to farm and build on day one. So if you're ready to get off to the best possible start in this game, then you know what to do. Find that like button. Let's go smash it.
ValleyFlyin.
Hello, Tolkien fans and Lord of the Rings fans. Welcome back to Middle-earth. I am ValleyFlyin. Welcome back to the ValleyFlyin channel. We are talking about Lord of the Rings Heroes of Middle-earth, a brand new hero collector game that globally launched today. Now, if this is your first time here on the channel, hit that subscribe button for more great content. We're covering Marvel Snap and Lord of the Rings Heroes of Middle-earth on this channel, and we may lean into one direction. We may end up covering Lord of the Rings a little more on this channel, but hit that subscribe button because we are covering both games at this point. So if you want the best content to get started in both games, make sure you hit that subscribe button. But we're talking about the best characters to start with on day one. So if we start off talking about what you need, you're gonna need actual 3 teams right now in the game as the game currently stands. You're gonna need a light team or a hero team, the good guys, and you're gonna need them to finish this light campaign. You're gonna need a bad guy team, so you're gonna need them to finish the shadow team, and then you're gonna need an arena team. You could use a combination of your best characters for this guild campaign, plus only the first stage of the guild campaign actually has some character shards, so you wanna farm some characters from there. I would recommend a few characters on day one. So you need a light team, a dark team, a shadow team, and then you need one team for arena that combines some of the best synergies of all your characters. Now, initially, the early team that you get is going to be a light team. You're going to start off with Strider, and you're going to start off with Frodo Baggins, and they're pretty good. You know, you may want to switch off teams, but as you start to go along and unlock more characters and unlock more campaign missions. But these are the 2 characters you're going to start with. They're a pretty good initial team. Strider has this leadership ability that affects the Hobbits and Rivendell characters. They're going to gain more damage and more armor, and whenever Strider crits, it's going to gain stealth for a wounded Hobbit ally that does not already have stealth, and he's going to get more crit damage and stuff when he has Hobbits and stealth. We also have Frodo, and Frodo's great for some single target damage. Strider's great for your AoE attacks. Frodo brings that stuff. And as far as the healing for this team, we're gonna get that from Pippin, and you can farm Pippin in the guild campaigns very early on that first chapter there. So he's gonna be the healer of the team. These are 3 initial characters that you could go with. Now, while this Rivendell team may be good initially, you may want to shift over to another team that we're going to talk about, this Rohan team, because they are a little better as far as damage and everything like that. But the Rivendell team does allow you to do one thing, and that is unlocking or fully unlocking Sam Gamgee. If we look at this campaign here, the Gardener's Journey, we've completed all of this, so we have the unlock of Sam Gamgee, but we cannot get to level 2 because we don't have a lot of Rivendell characters leveled up to 4 stars. And those characters we need are Frodo, Strider, Pippin, and Merry, because we can't get the 4-star for Sam Gamgee unless we do this campaign. Merry's not going to be farmable till way later, so that's a character for down the road, and this may be something for down the road, but keep in mind, if you want to get the extra stars for Sam Gamgee, you will eventually need these Rivendell characters with that star level to accompany it so you can get these remaining shards for Sam. And while this Rivendell team may be good initially because they're pretty much the only team you have, once you have access to these Rohan characters, you may want to shift your resources and shift your farming to farming these Rohan characters. The first one I do want to talk about is Lady Eowyn. She has this very strong leadership ability, helps the damage of the entire team. You're gonna get more crit chance. Rohan squad members are gonna get more crit chance during assists and counterattacks. She also has this strong move here, granting might, which is pretty much like offense up in Marvel Strike Force. Just self and 2 random allies. You're gonna get more allies as you start to level this up, and you're also calling for an assist. So very, very strong leader, and that leads into these other 2 characters on the team. The other one is going to be Eomer. You could farm him during the arena shards, or in the arena store, actually. And I like him because of his special. He's going to summon a Rohan attacker. It's a very weak Rohan attacker, but it's a Rohan. It's an extra attacker on the field nonetheless, and he's going to get extra attack there. And this one, he combines with Eothane for extra damage. So strong damage dealer, getting an extra character there. And we mentioned Eothane. He's probably the best initial tank that you're going to get in this team, at least for the light side. Let's go take a look at his kid, not Uglik. We're going to talk about him in just a little bit for the shadow campaigns. But here we go. Eothane is probably the best tank they're going to have on the light side, at least in the early stages of the game. What he also does, he has a big AoE attack that gives counterattack to himself and 3 random allies. It goes up as you start to level this skill up. So very, very strong. He's very, very tanky as well as you start to level this character up. And he's available on some of these early stages here. If we look at where you could find him, the earliest hard campaign you could possibly farm is the light campaign 1-1, and that is where you could find Euthene. So very, very good character. And this Rohan team with their synergy is a pretty good team that you could invest in, at least initially, and they could actually be your light team and your arena team. Let's move on to Shadow. And the leader that you want for Shadow is Uglik. Now, Uglik is available very, very early on your guild campaign missions. You can find him in the first guild campaign mission, and his leadership ability synergizes with the rest of the Isengard orcs. There's a bunch of different orcs in this game, but the Isengard orcs is who Uglik synergizes with. When a squad member from Isengard inflicts Bane, which is pretty much any negative effects on the team, you're going to heal all squad members for 2.5 of their max health. So he's going to give that survivability. He has a lot of damage. He's also a tank with a taunt here. So Uglik is a great character to lean in early on, especially if you're going to go for the Shadow campaign or if you're going to go for your Shadow team in your arena. I think the 2 best teams that you could lean into in the arena right now, or at least in the early stage of the game, is this Uglik team based on these Isengard orcs, or the Rohan team. You can still use Strider and the Rivendell team, but I would lean a little more into one of these other teams. The other orcs that you can get from Isengard very early on are Dunhir. He's probably the best Shadow campaign healer in the game. And this is where his healing is. Cruel Medicine, healing the most wounded squad member for 500 health. It goes up as you start to level this character down. Up, and 12% of this character's max health. Also inflict weaken on 2 random enemies, which is pretty much like offense down. They're not going to be as much damage that they could use. So giving them survivability is done hard. The other character that you're going to farm very early on this Isengard orcs is this guy, Mauhur. He has this very strange special here. It's going to give him 2 stacks of regeneration. I would have liked to see this regeneration applied to other members of the Isengards, but it's just for him. He's gaining Deadly, which is pretty much like offense up, or crit chance is going up, and then haste, which is kind of like speed up. So giving him a lot of buffs. He has a big damage move on his ultimate, and Uglik is going to assist. Uglik also has a lot of synergy with the rest of these orcs here. So those are your 3 characters that are going to go on initially. One other character that is an Isengard orc that you may want to farm just for that Isengard orc tag, and not necessarily his standalone value outside of this team, because it's not a very great character outside of this team, but he does have that Isengard orc tag. And because he's applying negative effects, a lot of these Bane effects, you're going to be healing with that Uglik pass leadership ability there. But where you could find him is on the hard campaign, Shadow 2-5. So not an early game farm, but you could probably get there in about a week or so to farm this character. So you could lean in and get 4 of these characters. The other Isengard orc is a very late game farm, so you might not get access to him, but you could at least farm some of these characters. Now there's other characters in stores that you may want to look at as well. And let's take a look at these stores and give you some recommendations. There's other characters that you may want to check out. And the first one you actually saw. If we go into these guild campaigns here, you'll see that there's actually a lot of good characters here. Nothing in chapter 2 or 3. There's all gear here. And once you have some of these characters built up to at least a decent level based on where you are at the game, you may want to go to chapter 2 and 3 because you're getting better resources. But if you want the character shards, I would stay in chapter 1 for a little while. Ironhide, one of the better characters in the game. He is a big damage dealer. He has 2 AoE attacks. So this is a character that I would work on. He also fits in Shadow campaigns and is great in arenas. So once you have access to this character, now he has a 180 shard unlock, so it's not going to be a very easy unlock unless you're spending money and farming this character more than a few times a day. You also have Mary here, which we talked about, or Pippin here that we talked about, healer for the light side campaign. You also have this character here, who's one of the early characters that you're going to get for the Shadow campaign. So you may want to build this character up until you have access to the other Shadow characters, but I wouldn't put too many resources in him. And we talked about Uglik. He's right here in this guild campaign. That's where you're going to unlock these characters. But let's move on to these different stores and talk about some characters that you may find in these stores. And I wouldn't actually buy any of these characters in this store because it's based on your gems. And unless you're spending a lot of money, these gems are a very precious resource. If you're spending a lot of money, you could unlock these other characters like Great Goblin. Probably wouldn't unlock Alds right here. Let's move on to the arena store, and you have a few different characters in the arena store that are very good. Other characters that you may want to consider farming. Doesn't really fit onto a team as far as tags, but it's a great all-around character, and that is Shagrat. He has a lot of turn manipulation. He applies debuffs to the enemy team, and if you're looking for a great shadow character, this is a character that you may want to consider. Now, if you look at it, it's a 100 shard unlock. That can be a very day one or even week one farm, but it's a character that you can consider long-term because of his value outside of his main team. Let's move on to this challenge section. And this is where you could spend this challenge currency that you're doing from your daily challenges. And there's a couple characters in here that are really good. The first I want to talk about is Bulk, since he's right here. He's a great Misty Mountain orc, so not an Isengard orc, so it doesn't have that synergy with Uglik. But what Bolg does is he's a high damage character. The other character that pops into this challenge store regularly is Halbrad, and Halbrad is a great tank. He's a leader of the Ravagers team, also supplies damage and gives some decent synergy with some other rangers like Strider and like Mirror here. I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing that right, but she's a great ranger. If you're farming her to use her on a ranger team, she's going to be very good. She's a great damage dealer on that team. Not a lot of synergy outside of that team. So if you're leaning to Halbrad and Strider and leaning into that ranger team, this is a character that I would recommend. So those are what I would do, guys. Day one, you have to do these Rivendell characters because those are all you have. So you're gonna have to put some resources in to get through this, some of the light campaign missions. But once you have access to this Rohan characters, you may want to consider switching them unless you're leaning into more Strider and that synergy with Halbrad that he could offer for a ranger team there. So those are two directions you could go with your a light campaign. I would pick one and choose that direction. So if you're going with Rangers, stick with the Rangers. If you want to go Rivendell and get that Sam Ganji unlock a little earlier, you can go with that way. Rohan is probably my recommendation, but it is up to you. Choose one and stick with that and build up those characters, because as you can see, you're not going to have enough resources to build up every single character. You're going to have to be very selective with your characters. And as far as your shadow campaign characters, I will lean into these Isengard orcs with Ironhide here. And if there's other characters that you want to add, like Shagrat or Bolg, you could add them in for some synergy as well. But those are my recommendations for the initial day one farms. Those are the characters that I would recommend building up on day one. And this is based on my week and a half worth of playing this game. So this may change as we get further experience and get access to some other characters. But at least in my experience, very, very, there's a lot of bottlenecks that you have to get around. So using your resources wisely is very important in this game. So hopefully this helps you in progressing your game, getting you off to the right start in day one, and having a plan so that you're not just upgrading everything and then, you know, after you get running these bottlenecks, you're like, why did I do that? So hopefully this helps you. If it did, hit that like button. It does help that YouTube algorithm. Hit that subscribe button for more great Lord of the Rings content. I'll see you guys next time though. Hopefully you enjoyed this video. Check me out on social media and have a great rest of your day. Hulk Fist Bump ValleyFlyin out.